Former federal prosecutor Joseph Moreno joins me. Nice to see you.
Greta, always a pleasure.
Okay, so weaponization of the Department of Justice. If you were asking questions tomorrow, what would be the kind of questions you would ask?
Greta, it's easy to say this is a conservative issue, it's a Republican issue, right? Because I think many in the left would say, well, we're doing fine. It's those Republicans that have these concerns about, whether or not the FBI and the intelligence community and the media are all in bed together. But the reality is, any American should be concerned if the FBI and other components of our law enforcement and intelligence community are too cozy with the media, if they are feeding information to platforms like Twitter or Facebook or the New York Times, frankly, or anything like that. Anyone should say, wait a minute. If it can be used against my enemy, it can be used against me. And so I think everyone should be very wary about that kind of coziness and say, let's get to the bottom of this.
I want to hear from the FBI themselves. There are two agents that are going to testify because they're on the inside. It's easier to be on the outside, take pot shots. And I know so many, really good FBI agents. Ones I've worked with, I admire immensely. But if there's some funny business going on, and I certainly don't like the coziness. By the way, the FBI doesn't call me. They never call me for that. But I want to hear what the agents have to say.
Yeah, well, look, there's a valid role here, right? If there is legitimate misinformation, I would like our intelligence community and our agencies who should be in the know to warn the public.
How is that really their job?
Well,
and who gets to decide that? There was some crazy commission. I think they were going to put part of Homeland Security was going to tell us what was information, what was not. We're big boys and big girls. We could sort it out.
Well, we could take a totally hands-off approach, right, and say, go back to bank robbers and kidnappers and terrorists and just stay away from this media stuff. But then you have the very real risk of real disinformation being perpetrated.
Tell me the risk, or where I don't understand. What is the? I don't understand why the government needs. Why doesn't the government just go to the microphones and make a statement instead of hiding behind the media and finding their friends and their pals in the media and social media? Just stand up and say this is wrong.
What about the concern of let's say legitimate trolls, legitimate Russian or China or North Korea-backed trolls?
Speak up.
But do you
Transparency.
Do you think the government has any role in assisting platforms like Twitter?
No, actually, I don't like the coziness of it. If the government thinks there's something wrong out there, they should speak up. We pay them to do the job. We don't pay them to be sort of cozy with platforms and sneak around and be sort of the thought police, and they could decide, what's misinformation, what is. Look at Christopher Columbus. If when he said the world wasn't flat, everyone had a stroke.
Well, look, it's a slippery slope, though, right? So I understand. If you start down that path of having the FBI in that role, it could lead to abuse. It could lead to...
We have seen it because Hunter Biden has now admitted this is his laptop. And the New York Post publishes it 2 weeks before an election. I don't know whether it would have had impact or not. But the FBI and everybody else at Twitter, they suppressed that. That was what they thought was, quote, misinformation, whether they did it innocently or diabolically. They have no business being part of that.
Was that Twitter as a private company doing that, or was the FBI in actual cahoots with Twitter?
I'd love to know.
I'd love to know, too.
They need to be answering some questions, but they both have an equal responsibility not to be sneaking around in the shadows and doing this to the rest of us.
No, I agree. And you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe a hands-off approach is the way to go. But then keep in mind, we will be taking away a tool in our arsenal to fight misinformation.
Like what? The FBI paying $1 million for the Steele dossier?
Not their finest hour.
Not their finest hour. I'm just saying is that the record is replete with bad things, and so we need to put a spotlight on it, and they need to stop sneaking around and cozying up with different organizations and ambushing people.
It's a dialogue that hopefully these conversations, these hearings in Congress will perpetrate, and let's get it out there, right? Yeah. Let's have this dialogue and have this debate.
And actually, I admire so many in the FBI, and I just think it's the leadership. No matter which administration, they need to clean this up. That's their job. Anyway, I'm taking the last round of that. Joseph Moreno, nice to see you.
Thanks, Greta.
Still ahead, a road trip for lethal weapons in a very dangerous time. More on that when.